Real Talk is proudly sponsored by Y-Wave P20 Pro and MTN.
Each week for 10 weeks, we're giving away the latest Y-Wave P20 Pro and 10 gigabytes once-off MTN data to 10 amazing storytellers. All you have to do is share your special moments with us. Follow at YWaveZA and at MTNZA and tag us with hashtag YWaveP20 and hashtag RealTalkMoments. We want to see and hear your stories and create lasting connections across the country. Each week there's a different theme, so keep checking our social pages for details and you could be a winner.
Welcome to Real Talk here on SABC3, the channel where the stage is yours. Well, it is said to be one of the things we obsess about the most and are most critical of, and that is our appearance. Whether you're tall or short or dark in complexion or of a lighter shade, or whether you're svelte as opposed to being plus size, these are the attributes about ourselves that either have us feeling confident or shy. So what happens when these things about ourselves become discriminated against? Today, we're talking body discrimination, particularly in the workplace. And to help us start off this conversation, we welcome the man who's done extensive work as a diversity trainer, as well as a facilitator in the corporate space, and new author, Devin Moonsamy. Hello, Devin.
Hi, Azania. Thank you very much for having me.
Congratulations on your book.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and as I was saying to you, it's the first time that I'm ever speaking about the book. It's 4 years in making,
Yes.
and finally, I'm on the verge of launching it.
So it's racism, classism, sexism, and all the other isms that divide us.
Correct.
So how do you tackle this question of body discrimination in your book, through your book?
Yeah, the subject of body discrimination is tackled in actually chapter 2. So placed in that category or that sequence of order in the book, it should denote how important this particular subject
Upfront,
really is.
yeah.
Very upfront, very important, because this speaks intrinsically to levels of self-esteem, how we perceive the self, our levels of self-confidence, and in turn, how others then perceive us
Yes.
based on what we're giving out into the corporate environment, our families, our friends, social circles.
Yeah, so how do you draw from your own experience? Have you been discriminated against?
Yeah, look, I think the whole book, not just myself, but many people that have come through our corporate training sessions within the diversity programs, everybody, and I'm sure you too, like many of the viewers today, each has their own story related to something on their bodies
Yes.
that they're not completely comfortable with. And as we start the interview, I have to say that this is not a green card for anybody to go and binge this evening, because we're talking about this level of discrimination, and it's okay to subscribe to an unhealthy lifestyle.
Yeah, yeah.
What we're trying
Yeah.
to create an awareness about is loving ourselves absolutely naturally.
But I think also to be sensitive about what we say and how we deal with each other when it comes to our bodies, because we can so often say insensitive things. People feel free or give themselves license and permission to just willy-nilly comment about how you look. Say, oh, you've lost weight.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It happens at home. It happens in family and social circles around the braai. It happens especially even at corporate. So we don't quite know what to say and how to say it. We just say things.
Yeah.
Subjects that come under discussion is the latest diet I'm on, how that jacket just suits your body shape. It hides everything. You know, you're looking great for a dark girl. The color brings out, the color of the shirt brings out the color of your skin.
Yes.
Those kinds of things. So we are insensitively drawing attention to somebody else's area within their body that they may not be comfortable with.
Yes.
And sometimes people are not open enough to then say to us, listen, that's a gray area for me. I've battled since I was 13 years old, and what you're bringing up is quite a sensitive area. We rather suffer in silence, and then we'll get into the car and then reflect. How do I cover it up the next time?
Yes,
so
and
that's,
feel low.
I would imagine
about it.
so. Look, everybody's story is different. I
Yeah.
mean, we're not in the car when the person is reflecting on their own, but I can almost guarantee, based on the interviews we've had to come up with chapter 2 of the book, many people go through these highs and lows based on your opinion of me,
Yes.
based on his opinion of me, her opinion of me. So now you've got a whole team that have an opinion about your body. Yeah.
And obviously, we draw conclusions from that. So what are some of the common ways in which men are discriminated against and in which women are discriminated against?
Yeah, look, with men, it's something that's been around for a long time, short man syndrome. So if a man is slightly shorter than what we perceive to be the normal or regular height for a man,
Yeah.
he can't even get mad in traffic because he's got short man syndrome. So he can't even throw a little bit of a tantrum when his cards declined or whatever. No, you've got short man. It's not short man syndrome. He's just getting angry because of the situation.
Yes.
And sometimes it can be very difficult for that individual to be able to reconcile with others that, no, it's not my height that's ticking me off right now. It's actually the situation. And these are things that are thrown around. And we sometimes at the braai and at the party, we make fun of people like that.
Yeah.
Not understanding that this man had to live with himself his whole life. And height is something we generally, you can't really change that. And how are we supporting his level of self-esteem in that moment?
Yes.
So men generally, I'm making a very general statement now. Perhaps they talk to their partners about it, but they're not quite as vocal.
Yes, as the women would
As
be.
the
I
women
mean,
would
we
be.
would go all afternoon, all evening
Yeah.
about it.
They'd have a coffee with their friend the next day going,
Yes.
she said I'm short. Or how dare she talk about my chest or breast in that way. But men generally won't have those discussions. So that's something typically for men. Another thing is balding. So men, who are having thinning hair and possibly hair loss at the moment and male pattern balding. And there are good examples of men who have gone bald, like Vin Diesel and all of these other heartthrobs, so to speak.
Yes, Jason Statham, they've made it work for them.
Yeah,
It's now a trademark or calling card.
You seem to be a follower there.
You could say.
You could say that. So clearly those men have found, it very comfortable being in their own skin, so to speak, but other men find it very difficult to reconcile when male pattern balding starts to occur, and it can even lead to levels of depression as a result of it.
Yes. There's such an intersectionality as well, because even in certain groups, we would find reason to say ostracize or discriminate based on something. There's certain attributes that are placed on a hierarchy of what is preferred. Because I was shocked the other day to hear a colleague talk about the fact that blue-eyed white people seem to have an advantage over brown-eyed white people. And as black people, we of course have the issue of colorism that can also be used to discriminate against us. So there is an intersectionality as well.
Yes, most definitely. And you and I actually spoke about this before on colorism, previously. And yeah, we're still hearing things at weddings, Indian weddings, African weddings in Soweto and the townships. The bride's beautiful for a dark girl.
Yeah.
Or he's lovely. He looks okay for a larger guy. Those kinds of things. And yeah, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed comments. And you see, this is filtered down from generation to generation. And it's the kind of conversation that happens at home. So some people will even give tips in terms of how to lighten the skin. So if that bridesmaid on the day of the wedding got wind of her being cute for a dark girl, she's going to go out and buy hydroquinone, buy a product that's going to lighten her skin, but actually we're treating something that unfortunately we're treating in an insignificant way, something that's not practical and wouldn't work. Very on the surface, a surface method, whereas we should be working on the self-esteem.
Yes.
Because the color of skin, sometimes the shape of our bodies are not necessarily things that we can readily change and be able to just fix like that. So using skin lightening cream, spending lots of money on weight loss tablets, unfortunately, we're chasing a very unrealistic image of what we should be looking like.
Absolutely. Recent studies have also indicated that people who look a particular way seem to advance in the workplace, which is an indication that discrimination, appearance, body discrimination, is ever present, and it advantages other people and disadvantages at the same time. That if you're good looking, chances are you'll be considered for that promotion, whether it gives you that added advantage in the absence of things like skill and performance.
Now, that's why, Azania, a show like this is so important. And I met some of the guests who are going to be coming on a little bit later, and I'm very excited about it because they're breaking the mold in terms of what we perceive beauty to be.
Right.
So people like Twiggy, you know, remember really skinny models? That image was what we as South Africans and as a global society have been indoctrinated to believe that that's what beauty is.
Yeah,
that's where the
standard.
blonde hair, blue-eyed, comes in, that whole stereotype. That's where lighter skin comes in, because on the front of every magazine, plastered on every light pole, is a beautiful, skinny, pale-looking,
Yeah, so media plays a huge role.
Media plays a huge role, so that influences, in turn, our parents' and grandparents' views of what beauty should be.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's very distorted in terms of what beauty really is.
Absolutely.
Because they come in all shapes, forms, and sizes.
Absolutely. So, Devin, all the best with your book, Racism, Classism, Sexism, and all the other isms that divide us. And I think it'll serve as a great guide to corporates, to organizations on how to deal with discrimination, especially when it comes to our appearances, and how to guard against it. Devin, thank you once more. And of course, he was here sharing interesting insights. And now we'll be hearing from different people on how they've been discriminated against based on their physical appearance, particularly in the workplace. So let's find out from them after the break about the experience they had, and what better way than starting with an industry that is obsessed with beauty standards, the modeling industry. We'll be meeting Lala Shabalala after the break. Like many women who are plus size, Lala Shabalala had to contend with unkind remarks about her weight. But instead of letting the body shaming get her down, Lala became an advocate for body positivity, not knowing that it would lead her into the plus size modeling world. Welcome, Lala.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let's go back, because you're quite clear that some of your body issues started from when you were still a child.
Yes.
And I know that we start to have these unconscious beliefs about ourselves from early on because of our upbringing. What was going on? What happened?
You know, mine wasn't even so much my family. Mine was more the school I found myself in. I was at a predominantly white school where people looked a particular way. And obviously being the young black girl who came in, and at a young age, my bottoms were big. My breasts came in because obviously I was hitting puberty, and my hips were getting wider and all of those. That's where I started to really feel like, okay, I'm different, and it's not a positive thing.
What did people say?
Oh, they would laugh at me. They would tease me, especially during things like athletics, not even understanding that this is actually just my body. I mean, I've always said to people, when I was in primary school, I was more active than a lot of the kids in the grade, because obviously there were sports that were mandatory. So I did the netball, the softball, and tennis. And then on top of that, I did a lot of dancing outside of school. So I actually competed national level in Scottish dancing. I did hip hop, I did ballet for 8 years.
So did you think that doing all of these things would make your body look like theirs?
I did it because I enjoyed it, but then I very quickly realized that even in doing all of these things, my body is not changing. It's not changing.
Were you fighting your body type?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it started with little things like, to even admit this on TV, but I remember little things like if I were to visit an aunt or something, the diet pills and stuff, I'd just take as many as I could, like in my little hands, and told myself I'll figure it out when I'm in private and just see if I can have some diet pills, Herbalex, always trying to take people's Herbalex, just little things to actively fight the process and the way in which my body was forming.
Were you always given dirata, like that advice, like do this, why don't you try that?
Oh yeah, even like as recently as last year, I was told to bash my hips against the wall, because bashing your hips will help bring them in and just crush them a bit, because no man is trying to marry a woman like this. Yeah.
So what is your comeback when someone says that?
You know,
do you ever respond? Do you ever push back?
Sometimes. The positive thing about being in this place I'm in, where I've been on this body love journey for a while, is I don't even always feel it's necessary to say anything, because I'm at a point where I'm like, the most important opinion is my own. So even if you feel some way about my body, that has nothing to do with me, because ultimately when we leave this space, I'm going home with this body. I'm living within this body. I'm going through life in this body. So,
and it's the only one you're gonna have.
Absolutely.
It's the only one you're gonna have.
Absolutely.
So there you are, you end up in the magazine business. You interned at a magazine. And we talked earlier with Devin about the role of the media, and in a lot of ways we formulate perceptions about ourselves based on the images that we see. So what did that do to you? Always seeing this striving for what is not perfection, but also impossible ideals of perception.
I actually thought it was very sad, because at that time when I was doing the internship, I'd already started researching the plus size industry in the US, which is much ahead of us. So at that time, I'd already made a decision that, no, there's more to this. There's absolutely more to this. And then, of course, going to work, I was more behind the scenes. So truth be told, I didn't really get to deal with the models and everything. I did a lot of online stuff, figuring out layout and all of that. But there were moments where I thought, this is just so sad. But I'm also happy to be here, because at least now I'm learning what goes on behind the scenes, so that someday when I choose, or if I choose to have my own magazine, which will obviously be more size inclusive, then I can obviously change perceptions. I can change be a part of changing beauty standards and body standards. So there wasn't anything at that internship that was necessarily
kind of triggering and always
no.
keeping you on your toes. But then you're now a body positivity activist, and you're doing great work. You're always posting great messages as far as that's concerned, and you're modeling. You're a plus size model. What has surprised you, or what have you realized and observed about even the plus size modeling part of the industry?
I think that we go in, first of all, a lot of people assume being big automatically means you can be a plus size model, and that is far from the truth. When you talk about models, it's just that, a model, and there's criteria, there's things they look at, and so that's the first thing that
Like what?
Like, for example, there was a particular article that was printed in a magazine where they were talking about criteria for plus size, and I saw things like, they don't want stretch marks, they don't want cellulite, you've got to be a certain height, you've got to have clear skin, you've got to, there's a lot of stuff.
There's stipulation even on proportions?
Absolutely. And the proportion thing I didn't read, but I'm observing it. I mean, I've got a few friends who plus size models who are assigned to agencies, and I've just noticed the general trend is a more particular, they favor a particular body type. The more you can have breasts, not too chesty, and then of course belly because you're plus size, and then your bottoms are kind of flattish, you know, not those big round, not my bottom.
But you're working, here you are, busy in the industry.
The fact of the matter is I'm an unsigned model, so a lot of the opportunities I get are just, I guess, brands also just saying, you know what, let's take a risk, let's do this. I'm just talking about now what I see with signed models. And I'm fortunate enough to also be in an environment and in a space in my career where a lot of my work is also calling me to places like West Africa. So a lot of my opportunities are coming from there. Like, for example, I walked Lagos Fashion Week last year. So they're not as, they love it. Yeah. They love the round, just, yeah, they love it.
And that's so interesting because even now Cosmo has broken the boundaries. They've put Tess Holiday on the front, on the cover of their magazine. And it's also developed or created a lot of debate. And people always, some of the comments were that Cosmo's promoting obesity and an unhealthy lifestyle. So what do you think of that mindset, that plus size immediately equates unhealthiness?
I just think it's so ignorant. It is absolutely ignorant. And because to me, that's also suggesting that every skinny person you see is healthy. It doesn't work that way. I actually had somebody address me on Twitter about how my pictures are promoting being unhealthy, this, that, and the other, and what am I teaching young girls? First and foremost, I'm not a mother. It's not my job to really teach anybody anything. I hope that you can get positive messages from me, but it's also just as important for you to pick and choose from anybody and decide. But
representation is important.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely important that we see ourselves, you know, a mirror of ourselves in these different publications. We've got a caller. Tebogo, you're calling from Pretoria. Speak to Lala. Good evening, Tebogo.
Evening, Azania. How are you?
Very good. What's your comment this evening on body discrimination?
My comment is to encourage when you are plus size and you rock it, just live a healthy lifestyle, and that's it. Everything happens to you at a normal person, like anybody, like any other people. So yeah, you rock your plus size, you become happy, no problem.
Yes. Thank you so much for that, Tebogo. And there's a lot to be said about what that does, like just accepting the body that you're in.
Absolutely. As you said, it sets you free.
Yes, absolutely. It liberates, it sets you free. Thank you so much, Lala.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, now we know that people who are plus size get the brunt of body shaming remarks, sadly. But that's not to say that petite people don't also face their own set of challenges. Kay Naomi is coming up and she joins me after the break to talk about exactly that. Welcome back to Real Talk here on SABC3. The stage is yours. Well, earlier this year, K. Naomi took some heat on social media while responding to a conversation about plus-size women finding it more difficult to shop for their clothing than their smaller counterparts. She said that slim girls have just as many challenges with body shaming as the plus-size women do. So we've invited her on the show to speak from that perspective. Welcome, K. Naomi.
Thanks for having me.
Ooh, let me go back to that tweet. You were like, you said skinny women have struggles too, just like bigger women. So
Yeah.
you've also had your struggles in
I
this
have
regard.
for many years.
Yeah.
I've always been a tiny girl. Well, I was like a very fat baby. But like starting in primary school, I was really tiny. And I was always that girl that people could pick on and say, yeah, we're in the sticks, and call me weird names because I was really tiny compared to everyone else.
Yeah.
And I think also because my body also developed later than everyone else. So it's been an issue for me personally. And that's why I always tell people it stemmed from a younger age. And maybe I haven't got comfortable with my body enough to be like, let's let go of that issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, you know, I can so relate to what you're saying. Because it's always hard when you're sitting on this side of the fence for you to feel that you can enter the discussion.
Yeah.
Because you'll be seen to almost be attention-seeking, like,
Or
hey, sit down.
defensive or-
Defensive,
Yeah.
yes, yes. It's
I
like,
really
no,
agree
sit
with you.
down. You don't have a problem. The problem is over here.
Yeah.
That the problem is more for plus-size women. So even nicknames. I remember I was called Mam Troiki. That's the name I earned because of
Wow.
being, you know, things like Ustik Manzanza. You know what I mean?
Weird names.
Yeah.
I agree with you. And I don't think people kind of understand where I was coming from because I'm all about women empowerment. I mean, I was raised by a mother who was imperfect in so many ways. I was raised by a grandmother who I loved with all my heart, who was also so imperfect. I had a cousin who also went through like a weight issue. So I was coming from a place of let's raise our issues as women, but not put down anyone else or the counterpart.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with raising your issue, but to bring it to a level of my issue is better than yours, that's something I disagree with.
We've allowed for there to be a hierarchy.
Yeah, and I think that's, people are so okay with bigger women, their issue is bigger than tiny women, but it's like, have you guys sat and spoken to a tiny woman and asked her what her issues is, or sorry, her issues are? I think we also we're not given platforms to speak about our issues, and maybe that's why tiny women don't really say anything. I mean, I went to a school with a girl that was anorexic, and she thought she had the perfect body, but she was like, every day she was like, oh, I feel fat, I feel fat. It's like, a lot of the time we think because you're tiny, you choose to be like that. Some people have actual issues that they're going through, and that's why they're tiny. Depression, anxiety, I don't know, maybe self-confidence issues.
So did you ever feel or consider doing something to change how you look?
For me, I decided to go into gym, and it's worked out amazingly. I mean, it does build your confidence. I won't say that I'm at the level that I feel like I should be on or the level that I want to be on yet. There are days when I sit and I'm like, okay, so one thing people don't know about me is that when I'm stressed, I lose weight
Quickly.
so quick.
Quickly.
I can go a week without eating. You'll see it the next week, like, are you okay? Where's your face? Like, what's going on? And that's not comforting for me, because it's always, I'm trying to gain weight, but now I'm dealing with life problems, and here I am losing weight, trying to get through my issues and my problems. So now it's like I'm dealing with two challenges and not just the one. So I sit and I'm like, women go through things, but Naomi shouldn't make her issue a more important issue than the other woman, because I don't know what she's going through. Until you know, you'll understand. And I think people aren't trying to understand each other. It's just a thing of, this is what I'm going through. Someone needs to listen to me. I need to deal with this. And it's like, okay, we hear you, but we're all going through stuff.
Yes.
And I think until then, I always say, for women to be united, we need to understand each other. And I don't know. It's hard to kind of get it out of my head.
Yes.
But for us to understand each other, we need to sit and speak to each other, and that's something that we don't do. We don't converse and give ourselves platforms for any type of woman to express how she feels. It's always, we are advocates of this and we are advocates of that. It's never a, here's a platform for a woman. What is your issue? Let's discuss.
Right.
Yeah.
So have you heard of things like skinny privilege, pretty privilege?
I've been through that.
Yeah.
Oh, she probably got work because she's pretty. It hurts more than anything because you know how much effort you've put in to get a job. I sit at lines, castings with so many other females, some that are already in the industry doing very well, others who are still about to get in, and it's like, we sit there. It's just a thing of, because it was for you, that's why I got it. So the whole privilege thing, and it's, I don't know, I feel like it's more of a confidence thing from the person that's speaking about it. So maybe you have an issue with the fact that maybe you're not okay with that, you're not getting work, you're not comfortable with no's. That's why it's easy for you to say, oh, she probably got it because she's pretty.
And this negates
I don't know if that
your
makes
hard
sense.
work.
Yeah.
It negates the fact that, yes, there's an element of luck in a lot of things, but it negates your intelligence, it negates your hard work. It's almost
Have you had a
disregarded.
conversation with that woman? Have you sat and watched her video reels or
to see what it takes?
To see what it takes. Have you? No, you haven't. It's just that perception of, this is what I see, so I will take in.
Yes,
When
yes.
I see, oh, she Instagrams selfies. Oh, she's got so many likes. Because it's Instagram and social media. You guys don't really get to know the person. There's so many people that I've sat and I'm like, yo, this person's like this person. When I meet them, I'm like, you're so different to everything that I've heard about you, everything that I've seen about you.
I guess
and
that's
I'm
the
glad
dangers
to
of
meet
social
you
media.
because I'm getting to know you. So it's that thing of actually knowing, actually trying to understand, stepping away from it's about me and moving into a space of it's about us.
Absolutely, and social media can be so scarring, so scarring. You'll be fine, okay, Naomi, it'll be okay. Well, body discrimination takes place in all forms, and after the break, we're going to be chatting to Kgotatso Ditebe. She's a model who spent the first 4 years of her career hiding her birthmark because she was told that she wouldn't get work. So we'll meet her after this. But a lot of people are of the opinion that weight gain and weight loss are things that can be controlled. But as we heard from Lala earlier on, as well as my former guest, K. Naomi, that's not always entirely the case. Imagine how much harder it must be then being discriminated against for something you have no control over. like a distinct birthmark, for example. Well, Kgothatso Dithebe is an in-demand model who spent the first few years of her career hiding the very thing that makes her unique. Kgothatso, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It is so
Azania.
nice to have you here because I've been, you know, watching your page. You know, every time we see your work, it's like, that is so groundbreaking.
Oh
Do you
my
feel that
gosh.
it is groundbreaking?
Thank you. Well, at first I didn't, but now I feel like I'm overwhelmed by everything that's happening around me.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's almost like the world has said, come here.
Yeah, it's almost like now we accept you. Come,
Yeah.
baby, come, this is yours, you know? Yeah.
So your journey into modeling, 4 years ago though, you were not presenting like this in the campaigns that you did. What were you told? What was going on? Do you think the industry wasn't ready? What happened?
I was 15 by then, I was still young. And the first agency I approached, they said, nobody's gonna book you because you have this thing on your face, you know? And other clients would say, this will take the attention away from the item or whatever we tried to sell, you know?
The
so I feel like
the brand,
not a lot of people really liked it that much, or they were not used to it, or I don't know, but they told me to cover it up. So I had to buy a lot of makeup just to cover my face and look the same everywhere. And even dye my hair black. So my hair was all black.
Oh, this blazing gray was not
I'm
even
telling
gray,
you.
it's white.
My hair was all black. My face was the same. When I go out, I used to cover up my birthmark all the time because that's how I was told to do, you know. That's how I was told, you're beautiful when you're like this, so do that.
But you had, even then, whether it's kids at home or in school or what, you still had an ambition to be a model. You know, you may have known it, this is what they have said, or this is maybe what you had told yourself, that it might not work out. This agency tells you it's not going to work out, but you pursued it nonetheless.
I did, because I feel like that was my dream, you know. It's something that I've always wanted since I was young. So if somebody cannot accept me for who I am, then people need to learn how to love you. And I feel like once I put myself out there, people will learn that, okay, this is how she is, we'll love her for who she is, and they can't change that. So that's how it was.
But you were living a life where you were hiding such a significant part of yourself.
I was living somebody else's life. I wasn't living my life. I wasn't being Kgothatso. I was being someone else.
Yeah.
So
what does that do to you, knowing that every morning you look at yourself in the mirror, but you can't go out in the world looking like that?
Thing is, I was, should I say, bullied, because I would be called all sorts of names. Like, people will call me Africa. I mean, my birthmark resembles the African map, you know. Other people will call me Tukala, such names. So, but I feel like I had a very strong supportive system, because some friends of mine would fight for me when other people call me other names. And at home, I was a darling. I would get everything I wanted. I mean, my mom didn't even know what I was going through. My dad didn't even, they didn't know what I was going through till I had my first article and I spoke out about it. So my mom was like, hey, girl, so that's when I was like, you know what, I need to tell people what I went through and what's going on. Maybe someone will learn from me.
So what changed? You dropped the people that were asking you to alter yourself, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I mean, I always tell people that by being myself, I am giving, or I'm putting something that was never there in the world. Imagine if I wasn't here right now, you know? I feel like right now I even get other people sending me their pictures on Instagram. Like, dude, I look like you, or I have this birthmark, I have this, I look like you. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cute. Because if I didn't do that, then who would have, you know? At the end.
So now when you shifted, when you moved to this new agency, the work, have you found that it is flooding in? Is it a tsunami versus the trickle that was there before?
Modeling is like a season, you know? I mean, now I might be working a lot, but next season people will feel like, dude, we've worked with you, we've seen what you can do. So it's all about how you put yourself out there, you know? I feel like I don't just accept any job that comes my way. I know. But I mean, because I just don't want to be a model, but I want to be a brand. So I can't just accept anything that comes, you know? I need to accept what works for me and what works for my brand, the model with a mark, which is my birthmark, you know? Yeah.
I like that strategy. Absolutely love that strategy. But now, I asked you earlier about waking up and knowing that you have to cover up. How do you feel now waking up knowing that you actually don't have to cover up?
You know, right now, I wear less of makeup. Like, I feel like whenever I wake up, I'm not gonna put on makeup. I can't do that to myself. Makeup is expensive, by the way. So me waking up and putting on makeup, that's a job and a half for me. So I'd rather go out there with my birthmark. Everybody notices, like, ooh, girl, you different.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So right now, I feel like I love myself more without makeup, and I just wake up and be like, girl, go out there, do your thing.
So do you feel that this is particularly groundbreaking? Groundbreaking in terms of breaking down those stereotypes. As you said, now people feel confident enough. You've given them the license, the permission to also say, world, this is who I am, and you're going to take me for who I am. I don't have to conceal parts of me for you to accept me. So this is groundbreaking in a lot of ways, that we're living in an age where as a model, you can do your work and get work based on how you look.
It is.
Because you're not the only one right now in the world. There's just this zeitgeist, I guess, of models with albinism, living with albinism. There's another international model who also models with...
Winnie.
Yes, exactly.
Well, right now I feel like it is. But like I said, it depends on how you approach people, you know? Because sometimes you can be a model. Like, I always get people saying, you only show face. There's nothing about you. And that used to hurt me a lot. But I thought, okay, if I'm showing face, then I might as well use that to my advantage, you know? I mean, I get booked for Fashion Week and I'm like very short for Fashion Week. So why am I doing that? Because I'm not gonna say my walk is perfect. Well, I know my walk is perfect. But if I'm showing face and the client loves it, then why not?
Yes.
You know? So I'm gonna use what I have to my advantage and not be like everyone else.
Yes, but an exciting time to be living in, right?
It is. It is, trust me.
Well, that was Kgothatso, and we wish her all of the best with her new career. Well, with the direction that her career has taken, because she's decided to step out boldly as the true her. So as we get ready to wrap up our conversation, we're going to be joined by Darlene Bailey, who has built a successful business as a brand stylist, personal shopper, and style coach. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Real Talk on SABC3. The stage is yours. So how many times have you heard that people formulate an opinion of who you are within seconds of meeting you? Well, everything from the way you're dressed to how you talk, speak, as well as present yourself is used by people meeting you for the first time to judge you. Well, a woman who has made a living from helping others maximize on their first appearance is image consultant Darlene Bailey. Darlene, welcome.
Thank you for having
You have
me.
a fun job. You get to shop, you get to style people. But we're living in a time where appearance and image feels quite important, like we've placed a huge importance on it. Mm-hmm. What kind of impact do you think this has on society? Good or bad?
I think you can look at it both ways, actually, because I stick behind the whole thing of being totally unique and being who you are, but 100% of the time. So I believe you can grow your image a lot, but be unique and grow it with what you have.
Right.
So that's why we go into, on the personal styling side, we'll look at your body shape and your skin tone and your style personality and your lifestyle. And we'll figure out who you are.
So it's not about fitting you into a mold or into other people's expectations, but about harnessing the true you.
Exactly, your uniqueness.
Yeah.
It's all about taking what's beautiful about you and enhancing that.
I'm so surprised because I get so frustrated. There's a show I think called How Do I Look, right? And different people get put through these makeovers. But then it starts to feel like what we're doing is squeezing people into a particular model or into a particular look that society has said, this is acceptable, this is not acceptable.
So another thing on that side, you'll look at, when I say the person's lifestyle, you know, what do they do for a living?
Yeah.
If they are a teacher or if they train aerobics, you're not going to dress them in or purchase a whole cupboard full of corporate wear for them. You're going to do what works for their lifestyle and enhance them in that kind of clothing.
And stuff that makes their personality shine.
Yes.
Personality come through, surely.
And that's also where colour comes in, funny enough, because colour can enhance or darken you, you know, dull you out. So it can actually make you look 10 years younger or older, depending on if you're using the right colours or not.
Yes.
So, and also colour means something when you wear it. If I wear a black item, for instance, and I'm having a meeting, that colour kind of brings out, please just listen to me, I've got a lot to say. If I want to have a constructive meeting with somebody where they're talking to me, I'd probably rather wear a blue or a charcoal, something that they'd want to talk to me. So colour has an effect on people without us even saying anything.
So that we can already influence how they perceive us.
We're branding ourselves in the morning by choosing our clothing.
I don't know how many of us do that.
But you see,
when you wore that colour today, to come on the show, what is it that it was supposed to say to us? Was it supposed to take 10 years off, number one?
Yes, definitely. It was more about vibrance and confidence.
Okay.
You know, sitting down and giving me that, let's go girl, you know, kind of thing. And just being open and alive on the show. Yeah.
So the first impression, what are the boxes that we take or the conclusions that we draw about someone when we meet them within seconds of meeting them? They say, what, 7 seconds apparently?
But I suppose that would depend on who it's coming from, who's making the decision about who it is. Funny enough, I'll sit at a table and I'll always make sure I introduce myself last if it's a networking meeting or so. And the reason for that is because when you say you're an image consultant or a personal stylist, everybody's up and they're moving their hair and they're pulling and they're sitting correctly. And it's not like that at all, because the first thing I look for is the beauty in a person. What is amazing about you that I can enhance? And I see it like that now.
But that's your job to do that. If I'm going into an interview or if I'm stepping into a pitch and I need to create an impression, they're not looking for the things you're looking for, you know, because this is the skill set that you're bringing, whereas they have different demands or different boxes that they need to tick to say, can we give our business to this person? Are they credible? Do they look like they will deliver what we want?
So there's 3 things you generally look at. It's your external image, your communication, and your body language.
Right.
Because if I was laying on the couch and I was sitting like this and my hair was a mess and I was late for the meeting and maybe my clothes weren't color coordinated, that says a whole lot at once. So if you think about somebody professional and you look at how they walk into a room, how they step, they look forward. When they shake your hand, they look you in the eye and they shake your hand.
Yeah.
And it's not one of these lame shakes. It's a strong shake, looking you in the eye and introducing themselves. Standing up straight, sitting down, being respectful of the people around you, listening, you know, all the fundamentals.
Yes. But what if we are discriminated against based on our physical appearance? What can we do around that, but not to alter the person? Because I think we have to be mindful about allowing people to be authentically themselves, but at the same time, we do have to be mindful of the different minefields that are out there, the different traps or impediments that are in our environment that are outside of our control that we can hopefully be able to control.
I think a lot of people have started moving towards opening themselves up to that, especially in the corporate environment. You're going to open yourself up to what kind of religion does that person have? Is there something that they need to cover? How can we cover that? So we'll look at, okay, what do we need to do and what is the problem here? And how can we work with that to make both parties
What do you
happy?
define as a problem?
I wouldn't, maybe that's the wrong word, challenge. Maybe we'll call it a challenge because if we're talking about it, it's not really a problem, it's a challenge and we want to work with that person and we want to make both parties happy.
Say I've got a big bust and maybe in the workplace I've gotten comments, negative comments that have somehow not put me on a footing where I'm considered the same as other colleagues who might not have the same physique. What can I start to do in order to help shift that perception, maybe, you know, one look at a time, one day at a time, without having to alter myself and go under the knife, for instance?
I would think that's definitely in the way you dress. If you want to be more subtle with the way you dress because of how you feel, going into that environment, maybe not bringing so much attention, your buttons mustn't be right down here where people can't even concentrate on what you're talking about anymore. They're just looking in one direction. Wearing different colors could also change the details. And wearing detail. If you wear a lot of detail over here, it's going to bring the eye directly.
It draws the eyes there, yes.
So do your makeup a little bit better and spend some more time on your hair and wear a top that's monotone. You know, enhance your beauty in a different way.
Yes. So focus on, or rather enhance, tone up the other qualities that kind of tone
as
down.
Opposed to, yes.
Oh, so do you see impact when someone has gone on this journey?
Oh, definitely, definitely. Just from anybody going out there to shop for themselves, you know what your body shape is, you know what your color is, you know what your style, personality,
but we don't
and your
always
lifestyle.
buy things that would be, we might not have the knowledge to know that if I'm built this way, this is the cut I should look for.
Yes, that's unfortunately where I would come in to be able to teach you those things. Image consulting or personal styling is fundamentally a toolbox. We're just giving you the tools to empower yourself. To know your body shape. This could be quite a thing because it's, are you an hourglass or are you this? But it's just a basic. It's a skeleton of what we work with. We need to know the basics to work on top of that to enhance the places that need a bit of development, if I can say that. So, and then your skin tone, your color, what colors are going to brighten you and make you look beautiful and not take away from you, because color can actually cut you off at the head and take all the attention away from you. Are you walking in the room where somebody saying that's a beautiful dress, or are they saying to you, you look beautiful in that dress?
There's a difference.
There's a difference.
There is a difference. Well, I want to say thank you so much, Darlene. Thank you. I hope that we pulled out tips, you know, that we can start to formulate our own toolkit so that we're able to step forward at our best. Thank you so much, as always, to all my guests for this evening for joining in on the conversation. Well, next Monday, need to tell you what's coming up after the weekend right here on Real Talk. We're inviting the men who have happily switched traditional gender roles with their wives by becoming stay-at-home dads. It's a conversation not to be missed, and we'll see you for that on Monday right here on Real Talk on SABC 3. Have a great weekend.
Real Talk is proudly sponsored by Huawei P20 Pro and MTN.
Each week for 10 weeks, we're giving away the latest Huawei P20 Pro and 10 gigabytes once-off MTN data to 10 amazing storytellers. All you have to do is share your special moments with us. Follow at Huawei ZA and at MTN ZA and tag us with hashtag Huawei P20 and hashtag Real Talk Moments. We want to see and hear your stories and create lasting connections across the country. Each week there's a different theme, so keep checking our social pages for details and you could be a winner.